Is the FAA looking at your driving record? You're going to find out next in this episode. Hi, Carl Valeri with Aviation Careers Podcast, and today we're going to discuss whether the FAA is looking at your driving record. To help me answer this question, I have with me Chris Pezalla from the law offices of Robert Strumor. You can find them on the internet at strumorlaw.com, and we'll put some links down in the description below. Hey, Chris, it's good to see you again.
Hey, Carl. Good to be here.
And just for those folks that don't know Chris, real quickly, you are an aviation attorney. Tell us what type of law and what type of things that people can come to you for.
Certainly. Well, my original background is as a pilot. I still work in the airline industry. But in addition to that, I went to law school a few years back, and I'm working in the aviation field. So specifically, I'm working with pilot enforcement cases, medical cases, and really anything that has to do with FAA medical certification or pilot certification. We also, at the law offices of Robert Strumor, have a few cases involving contracts and aircraft leasing as well. So it's been a nice broad experience within the aviation realm.
Awesome. Well, let's get started with this. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, please think about subscribing down below. Click on the bell so you get notified each time that a new video comes out. We do have that whole series too, the pilot interview course, and their individual questions that actually help people move forward in their careers. But we also, most of these questions are actually like IFR questions, and they'll help you if you're studying for your instrument exam. So Chris, let's start with our question number one. What is the National Driver Register?
Right. So, of course, we're in aviation, so we thought this would be a really exciting topic to have a national driver register. But for those of us who are career pilots, and for some of our clients who are having issues with medical certification, believe it or not, this is connected. So a number of years ago, actually many years ago, the federal government created the National Driver Registry, or Register. And the National Driver Register collects information from the state drivers' entities, such as DMVs or whatever it's called in that particular state. And so they take information from the states and they put it into one database. And the goal is not to create a complete driving record for a person, but rather is to collect critical information such as suspensions, denials, DUIs, reckless driving, or other very serious occurrences. And what this does is this allows other states who are issuing or may issue a driver's license to go into that database and make sure that you don't have a bad history with another state. So in other words, you can't go state hopping to get a new driver's license.
Okay, so to understand this, as far as the national driver record, it almost seems like it's the same as the state driving record. Is that correct?
It includes a lot of the information from the state level, but it won't include everything. So it will not include non-moving violations, speeding tickets, or other fairly basic offenses. So it's only the more severe occurrences, something that another state would really be concerned with, like a DUI or a suspension, that goes into it. So it's not a complete record the way that your state record is a complete record for your driving within that state.
The NDR is not, National Driver Record is not the same as your state driving record then?
Correct.
Okay, let's look at number 3 question. So how does the National Driver Record collect information?
And so that information is collected from the state level DMVs. The DMVs provide that information to the national database. Now, the national database does not analyze or edit any of this information. They simply collect it, which means if there is an issue with the information in the national database, it needs to be corrected at the state level. So the states are still very much in control of your driving record. The national database simply makes it easier for states, because there's 50 of them, to pass information back and forth and prevent a questionable driver from moving into another state and getting licensed without resolving the existing issues.
The FAA, they have access to my records, is that correct?
Yes, by way of several different forms, but most commonly the FAA medical form. The FAA medical form, or the MedExpress, which is the electronic version, if you read at the bottom, there's a consent line that says in small print, I consent to let the FAA obtain my national driving record. And so most folks don't even read that, they just check the box and go, but you're actually agreeing to let the FAA pull that information from the database, and they will. And this is how the FAA finds out about DUIs that haven't been reported by pilots. So a lot of pilots think, well, if I don't report my DUI, the FAA won't find out. Well, actually, they will. The system is pretty effective.
Interesting. So they do have access to my records, and that's because you agreed to it right there on the form. So number 5 question is, can I obtain a copy of my record?
Absolutely. And this is one of the things we do often with our clients. Cases where we do this are cases where we're having issues with FAA medical certification, particularly when there's been a DUI or an accusation of a DUI. We also use this if there's a question about a possible suspension. So we had a client a few years back that had a suspension on a record for, I think, about 24 hours and had cleared it. And it then did not show up on the state level record. So we wanted to make sure that it wasn't also showing up on the federal level. So going in to the national record and getting a copy is a good idea because now you know exactly what the FAA is going to be looking at.
So can I order a copy online?
Yes and no. So prior to August of 2020, all the requests had to be done in paper via traditional mail. Fax was not even an option. They do now have an online submission function. However, you still have to create a written request, sign it, and have it notarized before you submit it online. So really, it's a computer function to replace the mailing portion, but the rest is the same.
Gotcha. So you have to have it notarized, and then you have to use this form. And by the way, we're going to have a link to the form that you actually put together. It's a form that they can actually send in, correct?
That's correct. So they do not have an actual traditional form. You'll see this in some places. The FAA does this too. Forms require a review federally every 3 years. That creates a lot of hassle for the government. So a lot of times they'll say, we don't want a form, just send us a letter. And so the question, of course, is what do you put in the letter? My law firm went ahead and put together a template, and that template is the one that's going to be available to the folks watching this video. So you don't have to figure out what to put in. You can simply take the template, place your information in it, and then send that in.
Awesome. We'll have that, by the way, in a Word format and also a PDF format. And the Word format obviously will help you so you can fill that in. Another thing, too, is when we're looking at these requests is that there's a lot of questions. So another little helpful tool that we're going to do is we're going to include another thing. It's a National Driver Record Frequently Asked Questions. And we're going to include that as a PDF file so you can read that online, that type of thing. As far as and you talked about the notarization, what type of information that you have to include, how long does it take? Number 7 question, how long does it take to get a copy?
So it takes normally 2 weeks is what they say it takes, and my experience is that they're pretty good about that. So that's 2 weeks from when it gets to them. So obviously if you do it digitally, that's 2 weeks. If you mail it, it's going to be a few additional days. As you mentioned, of course, the notarization, whether you're going to go digital or paper, once you complete the form, you need to take it to a notary and sign it in front of the notary and have them notarize it. That's very important. That's for your privacy and your protection. So a lot of folks ask me, how much does this cost? And I tell them the only cost is the notary and the stamp. And now you can skip the stamp. So really, the only cost to doing this is just usually it's about $5 to get something notarized. So I actually did this for myself earlier this year just to see what was on my own record. Turns out it was nothing on the record, but I was really, really glad to be able to pull that up and make sure. And this is also a good way to make sure that somebody's not fraudulently using your information to get a driver's license, which I have seen previously.
Oh, wow. That's something I wasn't thinking about, but really good advice right there. Our last question, number 8, for those that are career pilots, is this part of that PRIA process that we go through when we try to get hired with an airline?
It is. This is one of the items that gets pulled during a PRIA request. Of course, PRIA, the Pilot Record Improvement Act, 1996, allows airlines to look for records from your past, and this is one of the things that will come up. So again, if you're a career pilot, especially if you're a younger individual, this is a good time to go ahead and pull that before you go through and make sure that everything on there is correct. And if there is anything on your driving record, it gives you a chance to get with a career coach and figure out exactly how you're going to address that in an interview.
Awesome, Chris. This has been great. Is the FAA looking at your driving record? It sure is. And here's some great advice. If you have any other questions, of course, you can ask Chris Pezalla and go to the law offices of Robert Strumor at www.strumerlaw.com. Chris, I really appreciate you coming here. Any last thoughts before we close here?
Well, as always, if you don't want to have anything on your record, drive safely. And thanks for having me, Carl.
Yeah, it's been great. Great advice. Just drive safely, but we all know things happen. Go through these questions. By the way, all the links are going to be below in the description. Things like the PRIA request and National Driver Registry, the frequently asked questions, the form that they put together at the law offices of Robert Strumor, and you can actually reach out to them at strumerlaw.com. We appreciate your watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe below and click on the bell so you get notified each time we come out with these type of videos. And don't forget this, if you're looking at this video and you're just thinking about what I need to do for my career, just don't stop here. Make sure you do something today to move forward in your career, in your life. You're doing that by watching this. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you in the next episode. Take care now and fly safe out there.